Hey, someone else is here.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
We're getting there.
Hey, guys. Hiya.
Welcome, welcome.
I can't see what Tremaine Miller looks like.
Get your cameras on, everyone. Get your cameras on.
Okay.
We're just going to wait a few minutes.
Yeah, it's cool. That's cool. That's absolutely cool. I will be watching this later this evening for about the 14th time. It's a very good film, if anyone hasn't seen it.
What's it called?
It's called The Visitor. It's with Richard Jenkins.
Oh.
And it's a film that I saw and loved, but has now vanished from all online streaming services. So to all intents and purposes, it doesn't exist anymore now, which is really annoying. But I managed to find a copy on eBay. But it's a film I will heartily recommend. It's very good.
Oh, sounds good.
It is good. It is good. Richard Jenkins is an actor I'm very fond of as well. He's great.
It's not on Netflix or Amazon.
Not on any platform at all. It's so annoying now because, you know, there's no market in selling DVDs anymore, so they don't make them.
Yeah.
And if it's not on Apple, Netflix or Amazon, that's it. It's gone. And like, I mean, you know, this is a movie that I think it may have been Oscar nominated or it may have won an Oscar for or something for another. I mean, it's only about 10 years old and yet to all intents and purposes, it's vanished, it's deleted. You know, it's really annoying.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have thought that with streaming services, one way or another, everything now is available somewhere. But it really isn't. It's actually not the case. And it's quite hard tracking down things that I want to watch sometimes. So I still skulk around eBay buying DVDs.
Sensible. I know Swati, who's with us from India, Swati was trying to find Kinky Boots and couldn't find it on any of the streaming stuff in India, which is a bit annoying, but
probably way too risque for. Funnily enough, I had some producer in India trying to buy the rights to another film that I did called A Boy-Girl Thing, which was like a body swap movie. And that's all fallen through. It's not happening. But I've offered to kind of write one for him for the Indian market. Always on the hustle. Always on the hustle. You never know.
Oh, right. I think we'll start. So just to say, Geoff, we are recording this, so I hope that's okay.
Yes, of course it is.
We usually put it up on YouTube, but we tend to sort of take the beginning bits out and the end bits. So yes, without any further ado, welcome Geoff Deane.
Hiya.
I'm very, very excited to have you here tonight with Collab Writers. And there is so much to cover, Geoff, from your amazing music career to your TV writing and your movie writing. And you've also had your songs in movies as well. So Shrek and It's a Sin, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, quite a lot. I probably have more music in films than films made that I've written, to be honest. Yeah.
No. I mean, we feel that you're very much a creative genius and delighted
thank you.
To be here tonight.
Thank you. I mean, there's also a lot of stuff that doesn't work that I try. I have to say that you can make it sound really impressive by picking out the highlights. You know, there are also there's some real peaks and valleys if you go through that history. I have to tell you, you know, it's.
I mean, that's part of the thing, though, isn't it? And that's how we kind of learn, isn't it? Through those various sort of ups and downs, I guess.
I mean, certainly, if anyone's considering a career certainly in film, I would say that tenacity and being in for the long haul is every bit as important as the art and craft side of your talent armory. You know, you really have to be, you know, you just do. I mean, I was thinking, I was looking, you know, I was looking back over a few things before this, just to remind myself. I was looking back through old emails, some of them almost 20 years old, you know, to remind how it all started. You know, actually did do some research, you know.
Oh, bless you.
It's very alien to me as a writer. But you know, I mean, I remember, you know, I worked quite a bit with Elton John's company, Rocket Pictures.
Yeah.
And I saw an email about a film that they were developing about Elton's life, which they wanted to call Rocket Man. And the email was 2001.
Wow.
Now that movie came out, what was it? 2019, 2018?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
That's how long that took. And I think that's, you know, something that anyone who wants to be a writer or, you know, or wants to be a producer needs to kind of chew over. It took Elton John that long to get the film right and to get it made. And none of us are Elton John. So, you know, and I thought, was it really that long? But I've checked all the dates and it really was that it took them, you know, about 18 years to get that film made. So that's why I say a degree of tenacity is something that you really need to have in your back pocket if you're getting involved in this game.
Well, that's a very, very good lesson to start with, Geoff. Thank you.
That's okay. I don't want to depress anyone, but
but it's really important. It's you know, it's a good place to start, because, you know, if you don't have that kind of grit and you're not willing to go through the ups and the downs, then yeah, got to do it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So when did you first sort of discover that you had a creative sort of writing musical gene? You know, when did it happen as a kid, or did it happen later on?
Well, I'm a big fan, full stop. Most of the things that I've been involved in have originated from the fact that I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of great music, of great telly, and of great movies. And that's why I've worked in those areas. I'm you know, a real fanboy. When I was young, I was brought up in a very working class area. Music was one of the few things that I had of my own, you know, to cling on to, that wasn't my parents or whatever, you know. I grew up in Hackney, which is a very multicultural area, and I was nuts about Jamaican music, you know, when I was young, and that was a really big thing in my life in, say, the late 60s. Actually, it still is, but in the late 60s, that fondness or passion developed. And then the David Bowie and Roxy Music thing in the early 70s really thrilled me, and you know, I got very absorbed in that. But none of those things gave me any inkling. They were so far removed from myself, from my life, that none of them gave me any inkling that it was anything I could ever do. You know, it just seemed too far removed. But then punk happened in 1977. And that really changed things quite a lot. I went to see a band called The Damned in a small club.
I remember that, yeah.
And it was like four young guys, looked like I did, more or less. I mean, I was clearly better looking, but you know. And they were great, and it was fantastic, and it was really exciting. And you know, none of them were particularly brilliant at their instruments. I didn't think. Right, it didn't appear that way to me. The songs weren't complicated. And actually, you know, it looked like maybe you could do this. So that's kind of where it started for me. I just decided to form a band after seeing them. And I think that happened to a lot of kids in London in what was to prove to be a really creative, exciting period for the city. You know, those portals don't open often. But one did at that point, around 76, 77. And suddenly loads of young working class guys I knew were starting bands or even little record companies or writing fanzines or starting to take pictures and become photographers. And these were all careers and pursuits that would never have been part of our life plan.
Yeah.
But suddenly there was this little pulp portal and kind of everyone belted through. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that stuff happens anymore. I hope it does, because
I think it does. I mean, I kind of have a feeling that that portal has opened up again with the pandemic, to be honest. I mean, I felt something last year when things were all kicking off. I downloaded, I say downloaded, but, you know, so many different scripts I ended up writing, and nothing's happened with them yet. But, you know, it just felt like there was a portal. So I don't know whether we'll see something coming out of that from people.
We hope so. We hope so. I mean, at that time, what was great though was it kind of got us into kind of the eye line of the business, you know. And at that point, the business, and by the business, I'm not just talking about the record business. I'm talking about magazines and other media. It was something they didn't really understand, and it was happening beneath, you know, right in front of them. It was happening and they didn't really understand it. And of course, they were salivating, you know, they were incredibly interested because they didn't know about it. I think these days, that side of things has undoubtedly changed. You know, the powers that be have got much more savvy. If there's a great young director about who's just been on YouTube twice, suddenly he's doing a Nike commercial these days. You know, they kind of catch things very, very early, and they catch movements very, very early. At that time, it wasn't like that. So it allowed a lot of people to kind of come through, develop a bit and get good at what they were doing before they were kind of snatched up by great big companies and doing adverts or, you know, soundtracks for TV ads or whatever. You know, it was a really nice, interesting, fun period.
Yeah.
And it kind of, you know, got me off the rails and starting in the right direction or the wrong direction, whatever, you know.
So that first band that you formed, the Latent Buzzards, were you all living in Latent Buzzard, or was that just?
No, it was Leighton, East London. It was my little joke, you see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We lived, the band lived on top of Irving Phillips, the optician, who hated us because we used to rehearse in the flat in Baker's Arms at Leighton. He was very unhappy about it, but yeah, so that's where we started. It was the Baker's Arms at Leighton, which I think Tony will know. I mean, yeah. So.
That's very cool. And I know your song and the lyrics, so Saturday Night Beneath the Plastic Palm Trees and Last Tango in Leighton, that sort of thing, they drew a lot of attention. Was that when it kind of like dawned on you that actually I've got something here and it's going to go somewhere?
I mean, it wasn't quite like that. It was a little bit like that. I mean, I liked being in a group. I like that. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
You're a young guy in a group, and I couldn't really believe my luck. And I'd kind of worked out roughly how to write songs. But actually, I did what I do with everything: is I find a load that I like, and I take them to pieces and work out how they go together. I did the same thing with TV and the same thing with movies. It's kind of like just find a bunch that you like and sort of deconstruct them and work out what someone else much cleverer than you did, and then copy it, basically. You know, that's kind of the way it works. And I thought I was pretty good at it. And then on one or two songs, as it went on, I sort of started writing a little more personally, you know, I mean, Saturday Night Beneath the Plastic Palm Trees is like I'm sorry, my dog is just shagging his carpet. This his little box. It's really awful. Can you stop it, you foul creature? I'm sorry about that.
That's live.
Sorry, I'm just sorry. I completely lost the track of what I was saying. That the song was kind of like a little vignette, really. It was almost like a little 3-act story with an ending. and it got a huge, I mean, it was only a minor hit, but it got a huge amount of attention. And God, I can remember, you know, some journalists compared me to Damon, said I was London's riposte to Damon Runyon. I didn't at the time know Damon Runyon was, but I thought it fucking sounded great, you know. So, you know, I mean, you know, I was a working class boy from council flat, so it sounds awfully pretentious to think of yourself as any kind of writer. You know, it's almost embarrassing, I think. You know, I felt that, but at that point, I think, you know, something kind of, I think it gave me more confidence to try other things, really. You know, when people say, yeah, you've done all right there.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing, isn't it? We all like kind of people appreciate it.
And I think there is something, I mean, I know I often think, you know, who the hell am I to think that I'm a writer, you know? And then it's only when if something says, oh, that's good, or you were good at that, and you kind of think, oh, maybe I'm not that bad after all. You know, I think we need.
Yeah, oh, listen, you know, honestly, you know, to this day, every time I hand a piece of work over, I'm on edge. I'm waiting for the reaction. And, you know, I grow 2 inches, not necessarily in height, when I get a positive reaction. You know, it makes a huge, huge difference, you know, and it certainly gave me confidence to continue and also to kind of, you know, swerve a bit into other areas because, you know, my interests waned and peaked in different things. And, you know, there was a time when I just got bored with what I was doing in music, and there was a lot of really interesting, great American comedy on TV at the time. There was shows like Roseanne and Cheers. And I thought they were wonderful, you know, completely. You know, I recorded all those songs back in the days of, you know, the VHS tape. I had hours and hours of them. And I used to watch those in the same way that I used to listen to music and kind of deconstruct them and work out. You know, at that time, they were a lot better than English shows. You know, we'd had some good shows earlier in the 60s and 70s, but I think, you know, a bit later on, there were some very smart American TV shows that we didn't have anything like here. And they completely hooked my attention. So I kind of, for that period, I just sort of dived out to music and started teaching myself how to do that.
So when you say that you deconstructed them, can you give us a sort of snippet into your brain of how you did that?
Yeah, I got a pen and paper out and I watched things that I thought were really good. And I worked out what scenes were and what made it a scene. It's not just a case, it's not just a location, you know, it needs to have beats and things happening, how many storylines there were, what shape the story went, at what point different things were meant to happen. Because I mean, the very good American shows at those times, the good thing about them to the student is they were very rigid format wise, you know, they were very slick and professional, and, you know, on page something would always happen. And, you know, English writers were never like that, you know, they're much looser kind of here. But it was a good thing to learn, and you know, it kind of bore me in good stead learning that kind of pattern and shape, you know. And it was much the same way as learning a pop song, and also not that different from movie scripts as well. You know, it's just working out what that shape is, and you know, and you just, if it worked for all your heroes, and if it worked for, I don't know, if it worked for Shakespeare and Die Hard, I figure it would probably work for an idiot like me. You know,
it's really interesting to, and probably quite sort of reassuring as well to know that, you know, even somebody as successful as you has gone through it in the old-fashioned way and kind of unpacked it. Because I think, you know, a lot of us sort of, when we're starting out, that is what we do. We kind of analyze and we think, okay, that worked, that didn't. So it's good to know that that's how you sort of train.
I still do it now. I mean, I'm still the same fanboy that I was. You know, the reason I'm rewatching The Visitor again, which is a film I love, is that I'm currently writing something new. It's just a treatment that I've got it's just something I've got an idea for. and it suddenly clicked that there's some areas of it that are comparable to some areas in this. This is a film that I really, really liked. So I haven't seen it for years. So I want to rewatch it to see when and where they did it, to see how that informs my choices. You know, you can always learn, man. And the great thing about film and music is it's all out there to see. You know, I mean, you may have to go to the trouble of tracking something down on eBay, but you know, you can actually see, you know, just scrolling through Amazon, you know, all these fantastic movies, they're there just to be watched, and you can, you know, see what far cleverer people than me did. Than me. I don't know. You know.
Modest, but Swati's asked a question in the chat. She said, do you ever think while watching something, why the hell didn't I get that idea myself?
I'm not very good with ideas. I'll tell you why I'm not. It's not that I don't have any. I have loads. I have too many. But I always find a reason not to do them. So there's always something wrong, which is one of the reasons why I mean, on TV and in film, I've had a kind of almost like a secondary strand where I work on other people's things, other people's ideas, which I like doing because they've already decided that idea is good enough. I don't get any say in it. Yeah. I then have to make the best job of it that I possibly can. If it was me, I'd have probably never made it. I'd have found a reason not to do it. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
I'm looking for that perfect idea.
Yeah.
And you never find it. You know, it's never there. Still looking, but
I mean, you because you with your music as well, you did quite a lot of collaboration, didn't you, as well? I know you wrote the song for Divine, You Think You're a Man, and I loved that song when it was out. I absolutely loved it. So I was delighted when I was reading. I was like, oh my God, Geoff wrote that one.
I mean, that was just, yeah, but that's kind of perfect for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a project, you know. I'm aware of what he is. I know of what his music is.
Yeah.
I was very au fait with the kind of gay high energy music scene. So it was like a perfect project. Yeah. You know, it's easy for me to get into that headspace, you know, and a lot of fun that was as well.
Yeah, no, I bet. I really bet. And was that something that was very important as well because of what it kind of stood for, or?
I mean, it kind of was in a way. I mean, everything that you do, I think, if you're a writer, is there to be referenced. I mean, not always big, colourful things, you know, it can be a moment with your kids over breakfast, but, you know, you're never entirely off duty.
No.
And I think working with Divine, and also before that, you know, I used to hang around loads of really dodgy clubs so late at night, you know, sort of, you know, watching those days. I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone. In those days, we used to call tranny bars. You know, they're not. I know that's not the appropriate term now, but it was lots of cross-dressing people and people that were sexually ambivalent. They were great clubs, and that, you know, all of that stuff was there. You know, and then later on, you know, it kind of came out in Kinky Boots. You know, it was all there to be. You know, I've met these people and been to these places, you know. I always think when people moan about writer's block, I think go out more. You know, it's like the problem probably is that you don't have anything to write about, which is perfectly acceptable. But, you know, trek around the world for a year. I bet when you come home, you've got something to write about.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
You know, it's just, you know, you just need to make sure that the world doesn't run dry, that if you spend all your life writing and you're not actually going out and having experiences, then, you know, there's nothing to draw upon when it comes, you know, and I think that's probably for a lot of people what they call writer's block. And to me, it's like you've got sod all to write about, go out and do something.
Because it is, I mean, you know, a good movie is something where you really feel the emotion. And to me, it is, you know, whether it's a negative emotion or a positive emotion, you know, you're emotionally embedded, and that I think only comes from living life, doesn't it? And
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you know, weaving that through.
I mean, you can be as smart as you like,
yeah, exactly,
structure,
yeah,
and technique, but that real input that you can only get from having your heart broken or whatever,
yeah,
that's really the thing that breathes oxygen into the rest of it. It doesn't matter how beautiful the rest of the technique is. For me, for my kind of writing, that's where the emotion comes from. You know, I want to be able to make people laugh and cry if I'm doing my job properly. That, I mean, I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, for the things I like to do, you know, I like films like that as well. So
yeah,
you know.
and you know, just kind of going back to the things that the things that certainly I watched that you did, series like Birds of a Feather, you know, I remember in my family we watched it every week. You know, it was one of those things. It was, again, it was like an emotional investment that you had. You know, you wanted to see what they were up to and what they were talking about, and yeah.
Those three lunatics were my bridesmaids when I got married.
No, you're
Around
kidding.
the swimming pool in LA. I just thought I'd throw that in. Yeah, they were very nice girls. They were very, very nice girls. It was good. It was a good, fun show to work on. And
did you have that idea, or did they bring you in as a?
No. That's Maurice Gran and Lawrence Marks, who I'm still very friendly with now, who are absolutely great creators.
Yeah.
Of comedy ideas. What they were. I mean, criminally. They're kind of neglected at the moment. I mean, I think there should be statues to them somewhere. I think they came up with 5 smash hit TV series.
Yeah.
Then I think someone decided, like, oh, they're too old and you can't work anymore in TV. And it's absurd. I mean, if it was in America, they'd be multi-millionaires, you know. And I think it's crazy. But I mean, they had wonderful shows, Birds of a Feather, Good Night Sweetheart, which was like a time travel thing. They did that other thing with Rick Mayall, the political thing, Alan Bastard. You know, they did some really, really funny, incredibly successful shows, incredibly. And, you know, very nice guys as well. So I enjoyed working for them as a humble employee.
And Babes in the Wood was
New Statesman, that's it. Yes, the New Statesman. Thank you.
Yes, that was hilarious.
Thank you very much. That's the name of the show that just escaped my mind.
That was very good. And Babes in the Wood, did you have any sort of, I'm trying to think whether I remember that. I might.
It was right. It was just a kind of fairly garish, bright comedy with Denise Van Outen and Samantha Janus. It was all right. I mean, it was okay, you know.
But you know, they're big shows that were on TV for a long time.
Yeah, that was good. And after that, I did a nice show called. I was starting to get. I mean, I did a lot of other sitcom as well. I wrote for other people. I did Chef with Lenny Henry and a couple of other bits and pieces. But I started to get a little tired at that point of the constraints of what was situation comedy at that point, because there were certain constraints. And I think once you've done something for quite a long time, I was starting to think a bit more filmically, to be honest. And I made one series called A Many Splintered Thing, which I loved. Somehow they let me do what I wanted, and I was really happy with the results. It was kind of like a romantic comedy spread out over, it was single camera before anyone was doing that shit. And it was like, I really had good fun, loads of good music in it. And it was all shot like a movie. And then at the end of it, they said, thanks, and didn't recommission it. And I kind of skulked off with the ump about that. I thought, that's really good. And I think it was about that point that I thought I need to try and see if I can work out how to actually write a movie properly, because at that point, they didn't really want TV shows to look like that. That was clear. Actually, that's changed a lot. You know, a lot of the more modern, you know, sitcoms for years now have been single camera and looking a bit more glossy like movies. But at that time, it wasn't the case. So that was why I decided to try and, you know, see if anyone out there would let me make a film.
Yeah. Well, they did.
Yeah, not enough of them though.
Before we go on to that, Geoff, I've just noticed in the chat that Nick Arthurs, who's on with us, said that he edited Chef.
Oh, hey, Nick. Well done. Thank you.
I did. I worked on season 1 and 2 and the Christmas special.
Oh, well done.
Wow.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. And to you. It's great. Great fun to work on.
Yeah, yeah.
I made it a long time ago now, but it's great.
It was, yeah, yeah. Very well paid job, I remember as well.
Yeah, it's nice.
I have a special place in my heart for well paid projects.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
But that was great. It was all shot on Super 16 film as well.
Yeah, yeah. It was a nice, expensive, glossy project all round, wasn't it?
Yeah, they tried to make it like Cheers and that kind of thing, you know, like multi-camera film.
Just not as funny.
No.
Well, there you go. There you go.
It did well. It did all right.
Yeah, yeah, no, I did, yeah.
Oh, well, it's good. It's great to have you in the house now. And Geoff, going back to sort of how you then moved to movies, was that a kind of natural thing then, or did you do I mean, it sounds like a straightforward question, but did you do any sort of course to train yourself in that, or did you just sort of do what you had before and get?
No, I really just sat down and wrote a script, and that got me into opened a lot of doors, and it kind of got me going. And I then had a little bit of a minor panic attack and thought, you know, how am I meeting all these people when I don't really know exactly what I'm doing? And at that point, I kind of read every book that there was and did Robert McKee's course. But actually, at the I don't mean this to sort of sound in any way arrogant, but the broad thing that those people teach, I'd worked out that's what I was kind of doing anyway. You know, I mean, not exactly the same, but you know, we'd reached similar conclusions. But I did have a little panic attack thinking, how am I meeting all these bloody big producers and I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So it was kind of like a slight checking process, but that was fine. That was fine, you know. And, you know, once I felt all right about it, I think being confident and appearing confident in front of producers and directors is a real thing that you need to have. And you know, to me, that was just like being on stage again. You know, I used to constantly tell people, I was like, listen, I know this is right and I'll take full responsibility for it. And I used to do this whole spiel like that. People used to be so terribly impressed by it. I'm like, of course I'll take responsibility. What do I care? You know, it's not my money. But I think it's much better if you can go in there and kind of be, you know, the pitch thing. Pitch is a little bit of theatre.
Yes.
You know, as much as it is selling your project, it's kind of selling yourself, I think, pitching. And I'm quite happy kind of doing that in a limited sort of, you know, little space. It doesn't bother me to do that at all. You know, if someone says no to something, I don't get upset. I'm not like that. You know, I'll go somewhere else then. You know, I'm like that. I'll go in there, give it a good shot and figure there's always someone else. You know, I mean, one of the nice things about film is I think it's never all over. It's never dead. You know, it's only you know, with TV, you know, there are kind of gatekeepers and the gatekeepers can keep one out, you know, but film's not like that really. You know, if you can get your film made, you can get your film made, you know. So, you know, again, tenacity, keeping at it, you know, and having a positive outlook. And like, you know, if Elton John's, you know, can put in an 18-year shift getting a film made, I can put in 3-4 years. Why not?
Yeah, totally.
It's not too bad, is it?
So speaking of Elton John, it's a boy-girl thing. I mean, that was with Elton John and David Furnish, wasn't
it? Yeah.
And how did that kind of come about? Did they find you, or?
I'd been in touch with them for a bit. They'd read that first script that I read and they liked it. So I'd been in touch with them, and I'd go in now and again and we'd kick things about and whatever. And I mean, the relationship probably continued for maybe 18 months until one reason or one way or another, we ended up with this body swap thing that everyone seemed quite happy to try and do. So, I mean, it wasn't what I really thought I'd be doing, but I was quite excited. Again, you know, it was like, this is an American style movie. It's a high school thing. It's a genre I can kind of work out, you know? So it was nice. And as you would expect, working with that company, very supportive of creative people. So, you know, I kind of fell on my feet, I think, in that environment. They were really, really good people to work with. I've got to tell you such a funny story. The film was finished and there was going to be a screening. Elton John very kindly, during the Cannes Film Festival, he very kindly agreed to have a party at his chateau to screen the film, right? Like, I'm like, wow, this is great, you know? So he threw this massively flamboyant party, which was kind of cool. And the film had been FedExed over from London. And, you know, the great and the good were there. Lots and, you know, apart from all the business people, there were lots of really famous people. But, you know, with those courier companies, when it arrives in places like France, it's kind of raffled off to a local company to do the final part of the delivery. And it was bought by a little father and son delivery company who never made the delivery in time on the Friday and were closed all weekend. And they didn't have a phone number.
Oh, no.
And the film there was this fantastic party to screen the film, and the film never got shown. So I really have, you know, those paddies that Elton John used to do, I really have seen one of those. I really have seen him go completely spare. And I have to say, I kind of understand it as well.
Did you join in?
No, I was just trying to melt into the background of the whole thing, you know. I was just very happy to be there, frankly. I was just in the background drinking champagne, just keeping quiet. But anyway, it came the next day and we managed to hire a cinema and, you know, everyone got to see it, which was good. But yeah, it was a little bit of a disaster on the day.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then that led on to one of my favorite movies. And I know, you know, there's ups and downs to everything, but Kinky Boots. I mean, something that, you know, really celebrates diversity. And to me, it really feels like a story that matters. And
I'm glad you liked it.
Encourages people to sort of stand up for what you believe in. And, you know, the emotion, I was like, I just loved, I've watched it several times, but I was blown away by the emotion, and that's through the writing. So that's you, that's incredible. But, you know, what are your reflections on that movie? I mean, you know, it made it big. It was a big hit.
I mean, being honest, I kind of clashed a lot. You know, the finance for that was Disney.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, you know, I like it. I like it. You know, I'm not being sort of, you know, prima donna about it. But after going for my pitch, where, you know, I made it very clear what I wanted to do, they were absolutely terrified about having a gay dude wearing a dress in a movie. And it was a real pain and a fight every step of the way. And basically everything about his romantic or sex life was just cut out. And I did, you know, everything, and I found that really frustrating, very frustrating. But you know, film is a big collaborative thing, as anyone who's worked in it will know. And you know, your chances of getting a vision through in a pure form are almost impossible. You know, you can try, but there are the people who put the money up and they have views, and you know, and I think with Disney, you kind of know what you're getting, really. You know, I mean, the good side of it was lots of the struggles you go through, you know, when you're working on an independent project, which is normally trying to raise sufficient equity, etc., and sales. All of that stuff doesn't happen. You know, they want to make your film gets made. So that's all super. You get a great cast, you know. The other side of it is that, you know, they get to call the shots on certain important things that you rather wish that they didn't. You know, and actually when the show came out, the show was certainly more, I thought, more flamboyant than the film, being a show, you know, which I thought was kind of much more what I had in my head, you know, and I was glad it was like that. And I had a fair bit of contact with Harvey Fierstein, who did the book for the show. It was great, you know, and he listened and we talked a lot, and I'm a fan of his anyway, and he's really good, you know. And I think, you know, in an odd way, the spirit of what I really wanted was probably better in the show than the film. But you know, what are you going to do, man?
I mean, you know, at least it kind of came out into the world.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm
a slightly different format, I suppose.
I don't want to come across like a curmudgeon. I'm just trying to be quite candid with my answers. That
I know it's,
you know, really, a lot of the things that you sometimes think, you know, God, that must have been great and a real celebration. Well, actually, kind of, that's not always the case. It really isn't, you know.
But that's why it's really interesting to sort of, you know, hear your take on it, and you know, your sort of your view. And you know, do you, out of that kind of experience, would you have any lessons or kind of tips for people in dealing with those sorts of difficult situations?
Oh God, no, not really. I mean, you know, I'm still making mistakes now. Well, golly. Tony's probably best to answer that. He's a lawyer, you know. I mean, you're getting involved when you get involved in film in a difficult old business. You know, it's difficult from every point of view. And the more that you're aware of that, I think the better. And as I said, if you can be tenacious, but you know, I've had about 3 projects on the, you know, after Kinky Boots, and the show did really well. That kind of, you know, knocked me up a notch, if you like, work-wise, and I sort of started to get involved in some bigger things. I thought, oh, that's good, that's great, you know. And with the benefit of hindsight, what of course I've learned is that if it's a much bigger thing, there's much more money involved, there's much more powerful people involved, there's much bigger arguments to be had, and a million times more things that go wrong, you know. And I've kind of worked on like 3 things, I think, back to back, that have all ended up, for want of a better phrase, going tits up, and I've wasted years and years of my life, you know. And what I've learned from that is, unless I'm in a really super powerful position, I'm actually going to go back to kind of, well, you know, I was so fed up after a lot of it, I couldn't even be bothered with writing for a bit. I really was pretty fed up with it. But the pandemic happened, and you know, the one thing that did was to give us all time to think, and it gave me time to think. And I thought, you know, I had time on my hands, like, as we all did.
Yeah.
I also didn't want to leave what I was doing kind of with my tail between my legs.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, fuck that, you know, stop being so precious. All right, some things went badly wrong, but dust yourself down, get back to work, and work on things that are more modest in their ambition.
Yes.
Because I think that the bigger the thing, the greater the chance of, you know, something being disrupted. It's got nothing to do with you, but, you know, to whatever. So, you know, I'm working on a couple of films that I think could be nice, modest English films, and a TV series that I hope will go. And, you know, keep your fingers crossed for me, please.
That sounds very exciting. And when do you think, are they going to be out anytime soon, or?
Well, you know, it's an ongoing process. I mean, one of the films we're casting now, you know, so there's one that is ahead of the pack, but we need to find our leading man, which we're looking for at the moment. Yeah. The rest of the stuff you have to kind of just wait and see. You know, that's kind of the way it is. You know.
No, it's really, you know, it's fascinating to sort of have the insight of you know, somebody as successful as you. And I know you're very modest, so you're just going to go, ooh. But it is it's wonderful to have that, and lovely that you're sharing it as well.
But it, you know, it is a tough old game. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, you know, I have a circle of friends of writers, some of whom are astonishingly good and have achieved success way more, way higher than me, you know, than I ever have. And, you know, I look at them and see they haven't had a film made for 10 years. I'm like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
How is that absolutely, you know, I mean, you know, it's a dysfunctional business, which doesn't help.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's kind of crazy. But, I mean, it is a difficult old challenge, you know. I mean, my son has just left uni with a film degree, and I'm like, God, don't do it, son. He's determined to, but, you know.
But I mean, you know, it's like you said, if you've got the grit and determination, I mean, I don't know, I think you can do anything if you really kind of like push in, and you, obviously it's lucky breaks and things like that as well.
You have to have that attitude. You absolutely have to, and you have to be in for the long haul.
Yeah.
You know, you really do. And, you know, be the type of person who can take a knock and still keep coming back. Because as I say, you know, a good film is a good film. If it was a good film 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it's almost certainly a good film now. So it doesn't matter, you know, if 30 producers say no or financiers say no, it really doesn't matter. All you actually need is the one that says yes. Exactly. You know, so, and that's kind of how it works.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And do you, just before I just open up for people to ask.
You don't mind if I eat tangerine while we speak?
Oh, no, carry on. You're making me hungry. Do you have a daily writing routine, or do you just sort of do it when you feel inspired and then to deadlines and all the rest of it?
I mean, I used to write all hours, but I mean, really, and whenever it hit me, and I had bags of energy, and I could be up till sort of 3, 4 in the morning. I then when I hit a certain age and the workload was a certain, I had a family, I had to kind of structure it more, which was quite difficult because you're not necessarily in the mood from 10 to 6. You know what I mean? It doesn't always kind of work like that. You don't necessarily get your groove on then. And I think instinctively I'm a bit more of a night person than a day creature. Nowadays I don't work as much as I did.
Yeah.
But when I do, I'm still kind of quite furious, and you know, if it might start, I'm a bit of an insomniac, so sometimes 4 in the morning you'll catch me, you know, 4 till 9 before any phones go or anything like that.
Yeah,
is a good time for me. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone else, but there's no emails or anything like that. There's no new posts on Instagram to check out, so it's actually a good time to sort of work. But I'm fairly sort of fluid. I live with my young son. It's not a house that runs on routine.
Yeah.
You know, if we want to have supper at 6 or 10, it doesn't matter. You know, we get on very well.
Flow, yeah.
Yeah, and I fit in with his projects, and he kind of fits in with mine. And thankfully, there's a really nice accord. So, you know, it tends to shift around the needs of the project and the needs of, you know, the house. He's out tonight, which is great. He's not in my face while I'm doing this. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear. How do you actually write? Are you old-fashioned on pen and paper and then type it up, or do you just straight to the computer?
Oh, to hell. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Funnily enough, I have a friend who I tried to work with. Very difficult. There's a woman called Kimberly Chambers who writes these kind of East End crime novels, which are incredibly successful. And, you know, they're about 5 pages each, 500 pages each one. She does it with pen and paper. And then when she gets back notes from her editor, she has to start again. I'm like, learn to use a laptop, woman. I mean, how can you do that?
Well, I actually, as a confession, that's how I write, and then I have to, no, I'm honest to God, it's the only way it will come through. And then I either have to dictate it or type the damn thing up, and it's maddening. It's not that I can't type; I can type quite fast, but it just comes out that way. It's peculiar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's hard.
It's not ideal.
No, it's really not. Well, I respect you for doing. So listen, it seems to work for Kimberly. You know, books sell ever such a lot, but I'm just stunned at the workload. You know, the physical workload of writing 500 pages, then getting some notes and having to start again. Man, I mean, like, yeah, you know, I'm kind of, I'm obsessive with correcting. You know, every time I open the script, I kind of automatically start changing things and making it better and finding things I can change. And I realized the other day, I even do it with films and TV shows that have been made and broadcast. If I open the script, yeah, I still. Right, that's not right. You stop it, you maniac. Leave it alone, you obsessive fool.
Marty just said she does that too. So you're a bit of a perfectionist then.
Nah, just an obsessive dickhead, really. And they never end up perfect. They really don't. Yes.
Oh, well, you've been absolutely perfect, and I'm going to open up to anybody else that wants to ask you questions.
Of course.
So either just stick your hand up or unmute yourself and ask, or stick it in the chat if you don't fancy speaking, but please do speak. Is that a hand, Elliot, or was that just a...
No, I was just, I don't know what it was, but I was scratching my nose actually. But Geoff, your formats, you work in music and film, you're also a producer and a writer. Is there anyone that you feel more comfortable with, that you prefer, or is there something you would rather not do out of that long list?
What I want, well, I can tell you what I want more than anything else is to bring everything to my dream before I shuffle off this mortal coil would be to bring everything together and produce a film that I've written and done the music for. If I could do that just once, I would be so happy, you know, to be actually able to just do all the strands so I could make all the big choices. I would, you know, if I could be in that position just once in my life, that would be a very thrilling thing.
But now you're sounding a bit like Terry Gilliam.
I don't know. Well, it's only what, you know, I mean, there are plenty of directors who actually really do get that kind of power on quite a regular basis. You know, writers are not afforded it, very few. Directors get it. You know, it's only really, I mean, when I think kind of three-dimensionally. You know, I'm writing a story, but I know what it looks like, and I know what the girl looks like, and I know what the dude looks like, and I know what music's playing. You know, I kind of that's kind of in my head anyway, and I normally have to sacrifice some of that because they're not my choices. It would just be nice to be able to kind of make those choices. That's all I'm saying.
But just further on that, if you've got this vision of what you want to do, what's the one thing that's holding you back? Is it money? Is it
Might be money?
time?
Yeah,
Money.
absolutely. It's absolutely money. You know, it's hard enough to, you know, raise funds for a film by making all the compromises that one has to regularly make. You know, I don't know how you would go about doing it the other way. I mean, you know, Shane Meadows, who I've got a lot of time for,
I know Shane.
Yeah, you know, I've got a lot of time for him, you know, and I like sort of what he did, but they're all kind of gritty and kind of quite relatively low budget things, and he managed to get, given that, I don't think my things would be kind of that low budget, you know. I like them all to look pretty and look really good, and it would kind of be, it would take a bit more of an investment.
We showed shorts of Shane's in 1995 at Raindance.
Oh, what one was it? Silver's.
Ronnie. Where's the money, Ronnie?
Yeah.
But he did 10 other shorts that he'd made while he was serving time at a community center for petty theft. And I asked him what the budget of a particular short was. He said £1.69. I said, why was it £1.69? He said, Matt, the actor, is mildly diabetic and was having a sugar attack, and I had to buy him a cheese sandwich day old from M&S. Anyway, I digress. Now, wonderful hearing you speak, but I guess if you wanted money, someone like Tony, who's here, you just need to tell him how much. And
well, all right, Tony, we can have a chat. We can have a chat. Tony's also my lawyer, so there would be a conflict of interest.
I think so. And Elliot, well, no, Elliot's just winding you up.
No, seriously, Jeffrey, if you had a project with a business plan, there are people who will raise the money if they buy into the business plan, if you de-risk it. But we all know that. And with your contacts, I would think
it's very difficult to do, as Tony would say, it's very difficult to de-risk any film project because it's intrinsically, it's risk money. You know, it is.
That's a damn lawyer speaking. It's like a doctor at the NHS. Yeah. When you got a headache telling you have a brain tumor. Come on, Tony, be positive.
Let me tell you something, that since COVID, virtually every contract that I see, and some of the ones that I'm asked to draft, have got so much de-risking language, like, well, you know, if the third AD gets COVID and there's a bubble on the set and you've got to do this and you've got to sign this to say that I understand I may be walking into the valley of death by joining this production. There is tons of that. And we understand that, you know, the guy that put in 3 and 6pence into the budget might pull the money if there's so much of that stuff right through the contracts, and it's I'm sure that a director and maybe, you know, the lead producer is thinking, is this going to happen right up to the day? And I've had clients in the last 6 months, a year, you know, 1-2 weeks away from shooting saying, we've decided to put it off because it's too risky.
I'm enjoying reading everyone's comments as well.
Yeah.
Well, Jeffrey, if you want some guidance, and not that you need any for this illustrious career, look back at the Holy Scriptures, and they put Bible code in the Scriptures to guide us at this late stage in the 21st century, which was, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. You see, you create the words, and no movies happen without words. So you have this biblical ordination from the ancient prophets. So surely someone out there could cough up the coins for you to make your next film.
Well, we're hoping so. I mean, that's the process that's going on at the moment. You know, that's always the process. Basically, that's the deal in independent film. You know, in fact, you know, if I had one major complaint, I would say that the energy that goes into fundraising is energy really that I would like to see go into the creativity of the project, but invariably it actually goes into the, you know, I'd like to see that degree of that many hours.
A writer, musician. He wrote Kinky Boots.
You know, yeah, it would just be nice to see that level of passion, time, and hours go into the actual creativity of a piece. But so much of it seems to be expended on, you know, the actual fundraising of the film. Yeah, sorry, I'm complaining again, aren't I?
Somebody's asked a question in the chat. The music that you'll write in the future, would it be for American, English, or European productions?
All sorts. I'll do for anything, man. You know, I mean, if something grabs my interest, I literally, I mean, I'm just helping a director get a documentary on a musician together. I've never worked on a documentary in my life, but he pitched me about it, and he was really passionate about it. And I didn't even know a lot about the musician, really. He's not someone I'm particularly into, but I was into the way the director waxed lyrical about him, and he sounded really enthused of it. Yeah, and I just thought, oh, sod it, I'll have a crack. I'm not sure what good I can do here, but I'll do it. So I'm always open to anything that kind of sounds interesting, that people are involved in and enthused over, and you know they're going to try and make it something good. Yeah.
Ooh. And I see, Fiona, you've got your hand up. Hi there. Do you want to just unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm unmuting and lowering my hand
to
be appropriately accurate. Very nice to meet you, Geoff, and brilliant to hear about your journey, and I'm really glad that you're still on it. I just wanted to ask, because you were talking about being interested in making British stories at the moment, and then the comment that you made to Elliot about being able to do everything on something. I just wanted to ask what kind of stories really inspire you to get involved in either of your different hats on, and also what stories do you think are missing that we need more of?
That's a really good question. That's really good. I like things personally that have some kind of emotional hook, and all the bells and whistles in the world. Now, I might like bells and whistles, by the way, so I'm not kind of criticizing that, but that's not going to do it for me. It can be, I can watch a tiny little movie about two people and be absolutely hooked. It's just something that's going to kind of draw me in emotionally. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, while you're thinking, I just saw this wonderful film that I'm always chasing down things that I've not heard of, and it's called The Straight Story.
Oh, I know that.
It's a David Lynch film.
Yeah, I know that.
And for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's an elderly guy who travels across 2 states on his lawnmower to visit his dying brother, and it's so slow.
If you enjoyed that, let me recommend another film to you that you would like. The wonderful and late Harry Dean Stanton's last film is called Lucky. And if you like, it's a kind of slow moving thing where not tons happen, and it's a thing of unparalleled beauty. So have a look at that. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a really nice film, and yeah, good call with The Straight Story. It's a great little movie. Really a nice movie. Yeah. You know, but it's, as I say, it's things that just hook you in. I'm a bit old in the tooth just to get hooked by a concept or bombs going off. You know.
Yeah.
Not that I'm against any of those movies, but I'm looking for something with some emotional content to kind of lure me in, which I'm going to go back to this film again and recommend it once more, The Visit. Not that it's one of my favourite films ever, but it's a bloody good movie, and I would recommend it.
We shall take your note.
It's a very, very, very nice little movie. It's very nice. But, you know, I like also, I mean, my house is covered in Almodovar prints, because I'm a huge fan of Pedro. I love how he jumps genre and they're always his films, though. He's got such a great vision, you know, that they can be really broad comedies or melodramas or some kind of gothic yarn. And they're always unmistakably his films, and they're virtually always very good films as well. So yeah, you know, yeah, that's it. Stop now. So yeah, but you know, I watch dumb movies as well. You know, I'll still watch a dumb movie of an evening. I'm not beyond that. You know, I must have watched Happy Gilmore 14 times. If it's late at night and a silly movie comes on, I'll still watch it. Anchorman and Happy Gilmore. I can't tell you how many I've watched them. How many times I've watched them. You know, I'm not beyond, you know, that kind of nonsense. What's the next thing?
So I know, Geoff, you've been very generous with your time.
Pleasure.
I know that I promised I'd let you go after an hour, and you've been more than generous.
That's cool, man. It's cool. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Been very nice, and thank you for putting up with me. It's been very nice to get to chat to you, and I wish everybody all the very best.
Thank you, and all the best with your upcoming projects.
Yeah, the next time one of them's coming, I'll do another one with you. When one's coming out, we'll have another one. Okay. All right, guys. Great talking, and I wish you all well.
Thank you so much, Geoff.
Absolute pleasure. Really a pleasure. Bye-bye.
So this is the bit of the evening where if anybody wants to network, then very welcome to stay around. I'm going to stay around for a bit. Shouldn't use network. It's more of a mingle, isn't it, really? But that was, I see you're now putting your cameras on. You're all coming out of the woodwork.
Well, he asked me to put mine on. So.
He did, Tremaine. He wanted to see what it looked like. I'm sure he wasn't disappointed. Well, that was really nice. That was lovely. I'm going to stop recording. Elliot, am I allowed to stop recording?